Hello there, and welcome to the podcast with SerAaron and Friends. I'm your host, SerAaron, also known as William, and these are my two friends, Dave and Brian.
Hello. I'm back.
Immediately interrupted, good job.
So today, you have got some footage of Limbo for us, haven't you, Will?
Yes, I have. In the background here, I am playing Limbo, which is one of my favorite games of of the year that it came out. It is one of my favorite games. Like, it made the top 5.
One of the best games of 1995.
I actually can't remember when it came out. I think it was 2010, but I might be wrong on that. But it's a really fun, like, short game, and you'll, as we watch this, as we talk about stuff, you will see that I complete the entire game in this, like, hour and 40-minute podcast, because it's that short. That said, I know what I'm doing, so I die a few times. Most of them are, like, solely for the purpose of, like, showing off the death. Yeah. And then there's, like, one or two where I genuinely forget what I'm doing. So it's a really, really simplistic game. If you haven't seen it before, it's basically just a sort of puzzle platformer with this really nice art style.
It does feel initially like it has this really subtle story going on in the background.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
I really like that at the start, but towards the middle of the game, and especially towards the end of the game, it just kind of drops off. And it just becomes a puzzle game to me.
Yeah, the last half hour is lacking in, like, story elements. It's still, like, fun, but it sort of begins to lose the plot a little bit until the finale, where you'll see, like, it ends, like, at a really, like, critical moment.
You were going to take the boat with you for the whole game.
I'd love it if there was an
that
achievement
boat
there.
everywhere.
Like with the Left 4 Dead gnome.
What's the Left 4 Dead gnome?
I think it's called Gnome Chomsky or something. Like, you take a specific gnome with you in the second one, I believe. From the start of a chapter to the end of a chapter, or as far as you can go, and you get an achievement.
Right.
And you can do something like that with Half-Life 2 as well.
Huh.
Which is a pretty nice little feature.
I don't know about that. Yeah, so I die there, for example. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, despite this game being, like, two-dimensional and black and white, the deaths in this game are surprisingly gruesome, which is why I show some of them off, because they're quite cool.
You're sadistic, aren't you?
One thing that I find quite funny...
This game has, like, a weird thing going on with it. Yeah, that was an accidental death, for example. Yeah, this game has, like, a weird sort of... Like, this game makes me think about life a little bit too much sometimes. Like, the whole... like, you see I die there, and then I'm back again, like, a split second later, which just makes me think about, like... Because this kid's in limbo. This kid's in this sort of purgatory state, which just makes it, like, even more horrible, because the way that I think about it, I start thinking about, like, every single death that this kid has, like, that each one is a real death, but he can't die properly, or whatever. It's kind of horrible when you start thinking about it too much.
Well, something that I find quite weird is the fact that the main character is a kid, and he does die in all of these gruesome ways, but it hasn't had any backlash. Because...
No, like, compared to, like, Skyrim, where there was a big fuss made about, like, being able to, like, not kill kids, and then a mod came out that meant you can kill kids. And,
good
like,
reason.
Tons of other shit. Yeah, I have that mod, I have to admit. And just, like, tons of other stuff where it's like, oh, you can't kill kids.
There's a difference
like,
between killing a kid
like
and a kid
everything.
dying in like, from himself.
Yeah, this is like the player's stupidity that gets the kid killed. So I guess the basic plot of this game is, as far as I can tell, kid dies and goes to Limbo along with his sister, or I'm pretty sure it's
I can't
his
quite
sister.
remember the ending, but I always thought it was like a girlfriend or something.
No, at least I get the impression of like an elder sister character, less than a lover.
Either way, it's still a damsel in distress trope.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
I can't play this now.
It's, I don't know. That said, like she's hardly in distress. I get the sense that it's more like a feeling of like lost, like being lost or whatever. Like the kid is looking for his elder sister, not to rescue her, but for comfort. Like there are some like really haunting feelings that I get from this game when I think about it too long, which is why it like this game like doesn't need anything else like in it to like bring out these emotions in me, which is why I like rated it so highly.
Reviewers call it
on my
the
list
Linkin
of
Park
games.
of video games.
I really appreciate when games are constructed in such a way that you actually do genuinely feel for either the characters or choices that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of storytelling without exposition.
Definitely.
Which this game does like perfectly. Like the only word in this game is hotel.
But it means so much.
Technically a main character.
I absolutely hate that bloody hotel sign. It took me about 5 minutes.
Hello, Mr.
Yes,
Spider.
that's another death that I show off.
He flicks you off. That's so cool.
I love
Yeah,
the sound
that
design in the
spider's
game.
brutal.
That's one of the things that
Oh,
really
yeah.
stood out when I was playing it. Like the bit where the boulder rolls down. I had my headphones on really loud, and I was
Yeah.
genuinely afraid. I was like, "What the hell is that?"
It's really immersive like sound design. I
And the bit
love
with
it.
the
Like,
spider.
really.
It has the dramatic
really
stings.
strong sounds. Yeah, like obviously you can't hear it in this, but like when the spider does that, like you see the screen shake slightly, like you hear it in the sound effect as well. It's like a really loud, like whoodumph. It's like a really brutal sound effect. So when you see it like actually hit your character, you're like, oh god, it just impaled him. So yeah, that's Limbo.
Yeah. Let's get on to the heavy, chunky point bits.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I can really say much more about Limbo, other than, because it's so short, it's one of those games that I kind of want to learn how to speedrun, because, like, this took an hour and 40 minutes, but I reckon if I was, like, actually trying, then I could, like, actually trying and remembered, like, everything to do, I could probably do it in, like, just over an hour.
Yeah, I think there's also an achievement for completing it without dying, which I'd be very impressed if you could.
It's less than 6 times.
Less than 6 times.
There's 6 chapters, so you can be allowed like 1 death per chapter. Basically. It's really hard. There's also like collectibles. You saw like sort of about 3 minutes ago. I climbed up those trees and like squished an egg thing. There's 6 of those in the game. I've only ever found 2
same.
of them though. I know where a 3rd one is, and in this playthrough I figured out how to get to it, but I couldn't be bothered because it would take too long. It would require like backtracking for ages. Yeah. Alright, so let's talk about games that we've been playing. This is actually 2 weeks since the first podcast, because this video like broke on YouTube the first time we tried to do it, and we can only record on Wednesdays. And I was also pretty under the weather, so I'm kind of glad that we didn't do it last week. But it does mean that we've got about 2 weeks worth of games to talk about that we've been playing.
If only I'd made notes on my second game.
I only
Goddamn.
have played games for 2 weeks straight.
Side note, I absolutely love this part. Crawling around
so-
covered in webs.
Oh
It
yeah,
reminds
I
me of
love
Worms.
this,
Yeah.
Worms.
yeah. I love his
You
little.
just
hop.
imagine the little noise.
Do a backflip. Do a backflip.
Yeah.
He does. He jumps the same way.
Double backspace!
Double backspace. Do a backflip.
360 no scope the spider.
Alright, so what's your point?
So, Brian, what games have you been playing?
Well, I have been playing Phantasy Star Online 2 It's only released in Japan at the moment, so you have to go through an awful sign-up thing where you have to do capture things that are in Japanese symbols, which took me about half an hour.
Oh wow!
Oh wow.
Because I had to do it for my brother as well. Did mine in about 5 minutes, but him, it was always a symbol that was so similar to another one.
Oh jeez.
But yeah, after all that bloody fun, I finally managed to...
That's the best bit of the game.
Yeah. Finally managed to log in. Got an English patch which translates the core dialogue, but no idea what's going on with the story. And one of the things that I want to talk about is how different the character creation is. Because in Guild Wars, I thought, in Guild Wars 2, I thought the male characters, the human males, they looked really kind of effeminate and really lame, and none of them looked like a proper man. And then when I played this...
In what? In Guild Wars?
Yeah, in Guild Wars. But...
And Terra,
I've never played that.
if you ever played that. But the men in that look really effeminate.
Well, Phantasy Star Online 2... took me ages to make a guy who looks only just about 25. And when I started the game, I gave him a proper kind of realistic looking build. He's quite muscly, quite tall. He's got some slight wrinkles and everything. You start the game, and there's like this 12-year-old kid that's like, "Oh my god, guys, there's like fucking aliens and shit!" Just in Japanese. And I was just like...
That's your like Japanese
Yeah.
voice.
So I'm absolutely not interested in the story or the characters at all, but there was actually a part in the tutorial where another character comes along who's supposed to be like this manly character who rescued you all, but I was just thinking my character could break his neck in 2 seconds. But one thing that I do love about it, if any of you have ever played Phantasy Star Online 1, it has...
I never played it.
It has...
I always saw it in the shops on GameCube and like never managed to pick it up.
Well, the gameplay was a little bit boring in the original, but they kind of beefed it up a bit, and you can play the whole thing on a controller. There's no sitting around clicking on things, having to walk up to them and press 1. You literally walk up to them, and it kind of plays like Dynasty Warriors, but more interesting. And if you're a ranger, it just plays like a kind of third-person shooter.
So it's... Yeah, so it's like Dynasty Warriors Online?
Yeah, just... yeah, with a really nice atmosphere as well. Because Phantasy Star Online's always had this kind of unique, overly futuristic Neo-Tokyo aspect to it.
Yeah. I must admit, I genuinely don't know that much about like the Phantasy Star universe and stuff like that.
It's not great. The gameplay's good, the visuals are good, if you can get over the creepy looking women and the 12-year-old looking guys. But yeah, the gameplay's good, the whole mechanics about it are just really nice.
Yeah.
And there would be more to it, but like I said, I ain't got no bloody notes about it.
So you're telling me this game doesn't have Sao in it?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
It's always been an interesting genre to me, actually. The sort of Dynasty Warriors like style of video game, because it's something that like I've only ever seen come out of like Japan and that area, because like I don't think I've ever seen like an American-made game like that.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind, like, because I never really got into Dynasty Warriors. The one that I got into was 99 Nights.
Oh dear God.
I played that. I wanted to really like it, but the difficulty curve was ridiculous.
Like, the first sort of 10, 15 levels were, like, really fun. A bit repetitive, but, like, pretty fun. And then it just, like, pumps up the volume, like, to 11, and you're just like, oh god, what do I do?
I remember this one level, it's about an hour long, each try. I tried it about 4 times, and I was just like, I can't get past this. I really want to get past this. I want to enjoy it. I want to unlock all the other characters, but it was just far too difficult.
But it's a kind of a weird genre, because like mean, it's basically just kill like hundreds of dudes and feel like a badass.
Yeah.
But I think if it reminds me of anything, it reminds me of the combat in the Assassin's Creed games.
I don't see that at all.
Because it's like, well, the way that I think like most people that have played Assassin's Creed see like how like people will just stand around and watch you fight a dude for ages. Yeah. Like they do that in Dynasty Warriors.
Well,
which I've always found kind of
Dynasty
weird.
Warriors 3 was definitely, it's the best one. The mechanics are just, they're spot on there. They're perfectly balanced. It's where you do these massive fights with a low-level hero. You can only kill a couple of guys. You fight a general. He kicks your ass. You run away, heal up, kill a weaker general, get a slight stat boost, and then you see like a proper powerful general, and it's a ridiculously hard fight, and it feels so good just to beat him. It has, it almost feels like if you've watched Seven Samurai, where.
No, I haven't, but I've seen anime that are like of a similar caliber.
Yeah, where you're essentially a hero holding off against tons of enemies, but it's really hard, and it just gets harder and harder, and it's like almost like a survival until you get to the end.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the difficulty that I played on, but like it.
The newer ones
does
don't
sometimes
feel like that at all.
A bit like like not just unrealistic, but like unenjoyably unrealistic.
Yeah.
Like, but by the end of a fight, you're like, oh come on, I just killed like 300 men in like 5 minutes. How is this fucking possible? Like
they do definitely get old pretty fast. You do kind of burn out from enjoying them, and you have to wait a while, come back, enjoy them, then just leave them on a shelf for years.
Like they just like don't feel like they've got like weight to them or anything. Like
no, they're not supposed to.
Not in a like not in a like floaty sort of physics engine kind of way. Just like the way that you can just like sweep sort of 10 guys in a circle around you off their feet, like with a spear or something.
I don't know. That's
just
part
like,
of its arcadey charm.
Yeah,
because one thing I loved about
that it's not like, especially in the later games, it really doesn't take itself seriously. With like both the characters and the weapons they use, like in general, swinging a sword that large would take a lot
break
of time.
Your bones.
But like some people hold it with one hand and then just swing it around.
Yeah. But that arcadiness, which a lot of other games on the PS2 had, like mostly Japanese games, I really did like that. You know, because Metal Gear Solid 1 had it, Metal Gear Solid 2 has it. That's why I don't necessarily like the newer ones, because they take it too seriously.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there was this game I used to play called Spy Fiction, which was like a kind of Metal Gear Solid James Bond thing, and it was arcadey as hell. The graphics were crap. There was all the items were in weird boxes that make this noise when you pick it up. I miss games like that.
You don't see them as often.
You don't see them as often because, like, first of all, Japanese developers don't develop on 360 anymore much. You kind of got a bunch of shitty games from Japanese developers. You got two or three decent ones, like the Sengoku series on PS3, which I really liked, and one of the reasons I wanted to try and get it, but it's like, I think it's US only at the moment. Not sure. The Sengoku series, essentially Samurai Warriors, like more anime style Dynasty Warriors. Yeah, there was like some really, I miss sort of quirky Japanese games like that. Like,
wasn't there a Gundam Dynasty Warriors game as well?
There's been a lot of Dynasty Warriors games. There's going to be a freaking Zelda Dynasty Warriors game.
Oh, they're like
Hyrule Warriors.
I can't even imagine that, because in Gundam it makes sense because there's miscellaneous henchmen to kill, but in Zelda
You fight
different
moblins, I
locations,
think.
different.
What would it be? Like
Yeah.
moblins and shit?
Like
Oh,
all
yeah,
things
fair
with swords and
of
shit.
course it would be fucking new stuff.
What do you mean? Moblins
Yeah.
are in like every Zelda game.
Except they didn't look like moblins in the old ones.
It just made me think of the Twilight Princess ones on the boars.
Oh,
Not a massive fan of.
the
fair.
guards in Wind Waker and stuff.
Wind Waker will like always be my favorite Zelda. So like, those are the moblins in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's coming out on Wii U, and that might be a maybe if it's decently fun game. I probably want to get a Wii U sometime, but
Yeah, when I have money, I might
oddly
get,
enough, some
like,
of the best
some
Japanese
new
games are coming out
consoles.
on Wii U.
Yeah,
Particularly with,
yeah,
Platinum.
like Bayonetta 2 is coming out on it, and that's all I can think of right now.
Bayonetta.
Bayonetta. I fucking love Bayonetta. Best game of 2010, for sure. But actually, I guess that's an example of a game that doesn't take itself seriously.
Yeah.
It's very jovial at a lot of different points.
I haven't played it, but I remember seeing one of the later sequences where you're kind of falling through space, killing a god thing on these falling
Oh,
platforms.
that's right at the end
Yeah,
of the game,
yeah.
yeah.
I really love that kind of when they go to those lengths.
Yeah. The fucking end of that game, for anybody that doesn't, like, spoilers for Bayonetta 1, but like you go into space, like you ride a motorcycle up the side of a rocket that's going into space, and then the rocket turns into Jubileus, which is like God, basically, and you fight Jubileus, and she shoots galaxies at you.
That is pretty cool.
And you and you like go through, and it's this huge fight. Like it takes like it's a good sort of 10-20 minute fight, even on like the easiest difficulty, and it just feels like so fucking epic. And then you kill God by punching her into the sun. And then the game pulls like a fast one on you, starts rolling the credits, and then it's like, oh no, wait, the debris of the rocket are falling to Earth and they're gonna like destroy Earth. So you then like have to break up the debris into smaller bits to like save Earth a second time, and it like whilst the credits are rolling. And then it pulls like another fast one on you by like having this funeral sequence after the credits, like making out that Bayonetta's died, and then she just like shows up again, and then they start like dancing and like fighting angels and shit. It's the best fucking game, I swear.
But that kind of scale is one of the reasons why I liked the 3D Castlevania games, like Lament of Innocence, because
I don't play
one of the end boss fights, you just step into this room, Dracula does, well, it's like one of the early ones, so it's not quite Dracula yet, but he says all this crap, and then suddenly the roof just flies off and death appears and it's like, I'm going to kick your ass. And I just really like that.
Wait, what do you mean it's not Dracula?
It's like there's a massive story thing. It's not even the guy that turns into Dracula, it's this vampire that owns this castle who's been basically grooming the guy that turns into Dracula.
Oh, sweet.
Alright, fair enough.
You'd know that if you played it. I swear you have an opinion on this game
yeah.
and you haven't played it. I swear.
Hang on, the one on the PS2.
Yeah, well, one of the
It's
ones
like
on the
a-
PS2.
What one of the ones on the PS2, I think I played Symphony of the Night.
That's PS1. For God's sake.
Is it?
For God's sake.
That's the one.
Fucking okay, what's the one where the box art is like a guy with long white hair
That would be
Night.
Lament of Innocence.
holding a sword?
Holding a sword, that would be Curse of Darkness, I think.
Every single Castlevania game ever.
Yeah, every single Castlevania game. Yeah, probably. Like a guy.
I'll find you the image,
know
one
which
sec.
one I played.
Surely. Have you played the PS2 ones?
I was definitely on the PS2. I played one of the PS2 ones. It felt like a Devil May Cry clone. I don't like Devil May Cry, and I
That's
stopped
where you
playing
go
after, like,
wrong.
the first
As soon
chapter.
as you pick up a game and you're like, oh yeah man, this is Devil May Cry clone, you you take
I
yourself
don't like Devil May Cry,
outside of
so-
the atmosphere. That's my point. It's not like Devil May Cry, though. It has a lot of these other kind of things to it.
Plays like Devil May Cry, though.
I don't care. I don't
And
care.
that's the part. Hang on, let me finish my point. It plays like Devil May Cry, and the gameplay in Devil May Cry is the part of Devil May Cry that I don't like.
Yeah, but there's more to it than just the core mechanics of the gameplay. There's also the environments are amazing. The music for them is amazing. The character
atmosphere was
design
good.
is really interesting and striking, and the lore behind all of the monsters and everything. That's what I love about them. Because I know
I have a feeling that I think I wanted to get into it. I have a feeling that I just got bored or stopped playing it after a while, because the game I didn't like the controls or the gameplay that much, and I think I just got lost in a tunnel somewhere, and I was like, I can't be arsed with this anymore.
use the map.
So maybe I should give it another chance.
Yeah, that one is Curse of Darkness, by the way.
PS2.
Lament of Innocence is the better one. Curse of Darkness is alright, but
Right.
Lament of Innocence, goddamn, love that game.
Right.
Is there any other of my teenage favourite games that you want to hate on?
Well, what I was gonna say is I never got into the 3D Castlevania games, mostly because I just never played them, or didn't play them for long enough. What I do or did enjoy were the ones on the NES, namely Castlevania 1 and 3.
Yeah,
I didn't like 2 though.
no one does.
I think a few people do. A lot of people will well, not a lot of people. The people that do like it will try to defend it. And I mean, from a innovation standpoint, it's not it's not a bad thing. It's good that the creators tried to take a different path with their sequel. I mean, fucking Zelda did the same thing.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just kind of the same. Well, yeah, it's basically the same thing that Zelda did. They had a formula which worked the first time around. They tried to change it a little bit, and it didn't work. So they went back to the old formula for the third game, which is the same with Zelda, Link, Zelda 2, Adventures of Link, and Link to the Past.
Yeah, I have played the Zelda 2, and I really didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I never liked it. I think the best thing that came out of Zelda 2 was the temple theme that goes like da 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 da.
Oh yeah,
That's a really cool.
it is a
theme,
good one.
Yeah.
On a kind of side note, because my brother's a bit of a nerd and he has lots of Master System games.
System.
There's a kind of Zelda rip-off Gauntlet game that is really hard that I quite liked, but the gameplay is so kind of unfinished that's where the difficulty comes from. And there was also, I think it was literally the first game I ever played, Master of Darkness, which is a Castlevania clone, but it does it in such a way that, although the gameplay is very similar, it has its own kind of charm because it's set in London. It has Jack the Ripper as one of the first bosses, and it uses the kind of the lore and the graphics and the music to kind of steal the gameplay mechanics and make it its own.
Yeah, interesting. I don't really know that much about old consoles other than the NES and other than the Nintendo ones. I don't actually know that much about older consoles beyond PS1 and N64, PS1, Dreamcast.
Oh yeah, you don't like Super Castlevania 4?
No, I don't.
Why?
Although I haven't played it for I've never completed it, but I don't like the way it plays compared to... Again, it feels like Castlevania 2 in comparison to Castlevania 1, only in a completely different direction to the direction that Castlevania 2
Brian's breathing heavy.
took, if that makes sense.
These are little disappointed sighs.
Mostly involving the changes to the whip and the jump mechanics.
Okay. Define these changes.
Did you
and
ever
why you don't
use
like
the axe?
Well, Ego Raptor like mostly covers like what my opinions are on it in his sequelitis video, but like a few places where I disagree with him is like when he talks about like, oh, it's an improvement that you don't have to buy a fucking engagement ring for your jumps. Like, I actually really like that in Castlevania, like the way that like if you're gonna jump, you gotta stick with it, because I mean in real life if you jump you can't change your mid-air trajectory.
I don't know.
Speak for yourself.
I don't know what you think the mechanic is like, but I mean when you jump, the only kind of control that you have is a slight shortening of the distance and a slight lengthening. It's nothing major at all. It still feels very limited and very, if you jump over there, but that's not the right place to jump, you're still going to die or you're still going to get hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that point's invalid. What about the whip?
And the whip is basically what you're up to said about the way that changing one of the core game mechanics, because basically what you can do in Castlevania 4 is you can whip in any direction pretty much.
You can whip in about
whereas-
8 directions.
Well,
And that is a major point.
Up, down, left, right, and at 45-degree angles. Whereas in the original Castlevania, you could only whip forwards.
To hit things diagonally and in any other position, you've still got to be a good shot. You've still got to get yourself in the right place.
Yeah, well, it's the same as shooting diagonally in Super Metroid or whatever. I think the main difference between like Castlevania 4 and Super Metroid, say though, is that I don't feel that Castlevania 4 really accounted for the change that they were making, whereas in Super Metroid they like changed the gameplay to accommodate this change in core gameplay mechanic.
I don't know. I don't really feel that's it's just like with the Medusa heads, you still gotta aim to hit them properly, and there's still creatures coming from different angles of the screen where you wouldn't be able to hit them with a normal whip, and you have to like jump and diagonally whip them and things. I don't know. That seems like another really moot point.
I don't know. I should probably give it another chance.
You definitely should. It is a very good game.
I like need to get my SNES emulator working again first, though.
It's weird because even though all those improvements you'd think they would help you, it's still a stupidly hard game.
Yeah.
With those improvements.
Yeah, I mean I think the difficulty hasn't changed that much, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll give it another chance.
Well done, Brian. You've converted him slightly.
One good reason not to like it is the American box art, where he looks like He-Man. It kind of detracts from it.
Super Castlevania. Alright, Dave, you haven't been talking much. What have you been playing?
Nothing. I've been...
Well, we've been playing games together.
Oh yeah, we have.
That's one thing. We've been playing Sanctum 2 and Civilization 5 and League of Legends.
I've been seeing that and I've been feeling left out.
Sanctum 2 is surprisingly fun for £1.
Yeah, Sanctum 2, like...
What is Sanctum 2? I know sort of all about
it. Sanctum 2 is a tower defense game, first-person shooter. Think of a generic tower defense game, putting down blocks, walls, towers on those walls, and kind of making a maze for monsters to go through. Now, instead of being a top-down, it's first-person, and during the waves, it becomes like a first-person shooter, so you can join in and attack the waves while your towers are doing the damage.
Yeah, you have a variety of weapons, and you can pick loadouts at the start of each game, and so you can pick like a heavy, which has like a rapid fire rocket launcher. You can have like a normal person with just an assault rifle and shit. There's a guy with a shotgun, and there's a guy with a sniper rifle.
That it sounds similar with the first person and the kind of top-down planning phase as I forget what it's called, like Alien Instinct or something. That game where there's a team of humans, a team of aliens.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's,
Yeah.
nothing's top down. There's a map, but when you're doing the building, it's still first person. But the map it provides is very useful for actually planning out a maze.
Yeah. It also. Well, the thing that like I noticed playing it is that unlike a normal tower defense game, like or actually in comparison to Sanctum 1, which I only played a little bit of.
Yeah, I only played a couple of an hour or so.
Like in Sanctum 1, the first person shooter mechanic of it like didn't really feel like it had that much impact. Like you would mostly just be shooting stuff and then like watching it.
Yeah, it felt like you were softening it up for the towers.
Yeah. It was just like the towers were doing the vast majority of the work, and you were just there to like watch as it died, basically, and occasionally like shoot it. Whereas in Sanctum 2, like you shooting them definitely has like an effect. Like if you try and do a round without shooting the enemies that are coming through, then like you better have fucking good like defenses, because it's really hard to do it without ever attacking.
In fact, more so in the second one, I felt I was doing more damage than the towers. In fact, a lot of the time, you're so focused on shooting, you don't even notice the towers are doing any damage.
Yeah.
You're just kind of hell-bent on shooting whatever's in front of you. And then before you know it, everything is like half health, and you're just like, oh, okay then, I'll stop shooting these things.
Well,
I think it's because like when you've got heavy weapons, especially, like you'll shoot something in its sweet spot, and the like damage that it does, like it, you know, it'll like pop up with a big like red number of like how much damage it did, like 3,561 damage or something, and you'll see like a chunk of its health fall off at the same time. Whereas when the towers are attacking, it's like it's more like a damage over time effect, like it's just slowly losing health because of like constant fire.
And
well, I can only imagine that creating problems with balance in the game. Like if the towers are too weak and the player characters are too powerful.
No.
I think it makes it more skill based.
You definitely notice the point where you need to upgrade towers. There'll be a point when your shooting suddenly becomes not enough.
Yeah. So is it more of an adverse effect than the first one, where it's essentially the towers that are softening them up for you?
I think at the start they're softening them up for you, but later on the towers kind of hold their own, and you're actually doing kind of the little bit of damage.
Yeah, but by the last few waves, like you definitely feel like it's a combined effort of you and the towers. Somewhere in the middle of the game, you feel like you're the only one doing damage, and at the start of the game, it feels like the towers are the only ones doing damage.
Not to mention, early on they start throwing. Later on they start throwing like special armored units that can't really be shot at a certain direction, and because the towers are static where they stand. They'll obviously just shoot the front of them and then forget it and carry on to the next one, shoot the front of them, but they're armoured, and so you kind of have to go around behind the line and shoot behind them to soften them up for other towers. And obviously you can combine the different towers to make it so they can be softened by normal sentry towers, and then at the end get them hit with like a shock tower or something.
Yeah, you can program the AI in the tower to like selectively attack things, which is really cool. Plus, I think, if I remember correctly, the monsters didn't attack you in Sanctum 1. So, like, which made it feel like it had, like, even less weight, so you would just be, like, shooting these dudes as they're walking past you, getting shot by tons of towers, and, like, ignoring everything else, which made it seem a bit kind of, like, robotic. Whereas in Sanctum 2, like if you jump down off your wall into the maze and like start trying to shoot the monsters that are coming through, like they'll fucking start punching you. Like you don't have a health bar, but if you take enough hits in a certain amount of time, then you'll die and you'll have to respawn. Although me and Dave were playing it, me, Dave, and our friend Jack were playing it on like hardcore mode, where if you die, then you don't respawn until the start of the next round.
Damn, that actually sounds quite fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Especially when we
it's up to 4 players. You should play it with
when we
I wouldn't run on my laptop.
had none of the stuff on. It was basically make a maze, put a bunch of towers, they'll all die, and then as soon as we turned on all of the sort of mutators, it actually became a sort of tactical challenge. We had to kind of stop and think about what towers we were going to use and where to put them and which ones to upgrade first, and how the maze was going to go to kind of elongate the queue of the monsters. It was a lot better.
Yeah. At the start of each mission, you can pick modifiers which will give them extra speed and extra toughness and extra damaging and abilities and stuff, and turn on hardcore mode and shit like that. So, and they'll give you extra experience at the end of the round. So we were experimenting with playing with some of them on as well, and they make it a lot more challenging, a lot more interesting. They're kind of like skulls in Halo, if you've ever played that.
That sounds good. What else did you say you were playing?
We played Civilization 5.
Cheers.
Brave New World.
A classic. A very slow version of Civ 5. It's not as grand as our last ones. Something was off in that game. I'll have to try one with
What do you mean,
me.
because of the expansion?
Sorry?
You mean the expansion makes it a bit more dull?
No, connection-wise it was a bit slow and
it kept crashing, and I have 2 major problems with Civilization 5 at the moment, and that's firstly that it takes literally 5 minutes to load up the game, and then another 5 minutes to get into to load up the main menu, and then another 5 minutes or whatever to load up the actual game. And I don't understand why, because it's not graphically intensive. It's it's a fucking turn-based RTS. It should not take that long to load. That
game is a real CPU hog, even with 6 CPUs.
It doesn't make sense. Why?
Yeah, well, I'll have to try me hosting and see if we can get a smoother game going.
Plus, it kept I can't remember. Did it crash?
No, I'm not sure. I think we just kept having our units not moving. But at the start, the game was out of sync. So I was finding things that didn't exist in Will's game, and Will was finding things that didn't exist in my game. And I was bragging about all this stuff, just got pottery, found the Russians.
It's I just found the Russians, and oh hey, there's 2 ruins, and I'm I don't see the Russians. What are you talking about?
And I was I see you're exploring the coast, and you're I'm not exploring the coast. Well, what are you doing with your warrior? I don't have a warrior.
I don't have a warrior.
That's quite creepy, actually.
It's wait a minute, what are you building? I'm building scouts. What am I building? You're building a monument.
To Satan.
I'm not building a monument. Yeah, it was really fucking weird and dumb.
Yes.
So,
you guys have been playing League of Legends?
Yep.
Hang on, I want to make one quick point about Civ 5.
And I want to talk about another game after you.
Yeah. The problem with my aside from the horrible loading screens and syncing issues and internet connection issues and stuff, my problem with the gameplay is that this is a game that can take 20 hours to finish with some friends. And if you're doing it versus each other, then there's this really unsatisfying feeling when you win. Because you will be playing for hours and hours and hours on end, and say you're going for the dominant victory where you get the biggest army and then just kill everybody. You do that, and everybody else is going for like religious victory or political victory or whatever, and you just like stomp through their base on turn like 400 and something at like 5 a.m. and you're just like, oh, I killed you.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. And you're like, I guess I win?
Yeah, that's
good game?
That's what a lot of
like,
RTSs make me feel at the end.
Compared to like, you know, a faster paced RTS where games only last like half an hour to an hour, it's where that's like, oh, you won, GG, or whatever. That's why I found the game that me and Dave played, where it was me and him and a team against some AIs, like much more enjoyable.
I remember them a lot more because
like,
there's just...
Yeah, like there's like more memorable moments where you share like with each other as opposed to like against each
it's
other.
better to plan with each other than plan against each other.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, especially since you're like sitting in chat like talking to each other for hours and hours and hours. Like if you're trying to like plot against each other for hours and hours and hours, then like it's kind of hard. It's like, oh man, I've got so much unhappiness right now. Why is that? Oh, because I've got a giant army. You've got a giant army? Yeah, it's headed your shit.
I absolutely love in versus games plotting against someone, and that moment when they realise that you've done something and you're just laughing at them because you're like, yes, take.
Yeah, like normally that's funny, but when you've been building your civilization for hours and hours and hours, it's like somebody coming and like stomping on your sandcastle.
Yeah.
It works definitely for RTSs, but for that kind of game, it's kind of excessive with that amount of time you spend. Like the time when we began with Rob, and I basically built a command outpost to steal, to claim one of the high resources in my sort of area, so I owned it. And because I did that, he thought I was like encroaching on his land. So he got a huge army and just put it by the outside of my city. So I put a huge army outside of my city, and we spent probably the next 500 years with these just units sitting there. He was losing gold every turn. I was barely making any profit. And we're just like, neither of us want to have war, but neither of us want to take the chance. So we're just going to sit here.
I just imagine your characters writing down the Rob Chronicles.
It's like, yeah, 500. Still looking at that guy in the eyes.
Still being a dick. We must pray to our god Dave and hope that he helps us.
So yeah, that's my beef with Civilization.
That is some good beef.
Definitely more fun co-op.
Yeah.
So Dave, you said you had
I have very, very recently started playing Warframe.
Never heard of it.
It is fantastic. I love this game. It's I didn't like notice this game because I thought it was just another one of those multiplayer shooter games.
Yeah.
And I was looking on Co-Optimus, which is a co-op site where I look for co-op games, and that came up, and it was talking about the missions and like endless survival and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll check this out, and it's a freaking insane co-op mission-based sci-fi ninja third-person shooter game.
That sounds pretty good.
It is astonishingly well polished for a game that has apparently a small team working on it, and it's just come out on beta. I'm not even sure it's out of beta yet, but it's a free to play. It's free to play,
Steam, isn't it?
Yeah. Which is another one of those games like Path of Exile where it's ridiculously generous for its free to play model. The amount of content you get, like the way the missions are based. You have the solar system, and inside the solar system there are like 24 sectors. Each one are a different mission, and each one is basically it could be a survival mission, it could be a steal this item mission, hack into this, escort this person out of here. And the good thing is, like, the gameplay is a third person shooter but with sword mechanics, kind of very similar to like how Metal Gear Rising, I guess, 'cause it's in the same theme, like with samurai robots.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun. I've just done like one mission, and it gave me like a bunch of stuff for it, like upgrades for my guy, and you can completely customize your little ninja robot guy with colors and different swords, and the amount of melee weapons you can get as well. You can get like these hand scythes and stuff instead of just a sword. And tons of different assault rifles, and it's all co-op and it's all free. So it sounds like a ridiculously interesting game.
Yeah, I might check it out.
Yeah, I'd like to
It
play
runs like a
guys.
dream on my computer.
Run like shite on mine.
Yeah, I haven't got. I thought it looks really nice,
Yeah.
and I've been using the controller at the moment, but it actually works really good on mouse. The only reason I haven't been using mouse is because it's a third-person game, and because you're using a sword, there's a lot of times where you slash with the sword, you miss, and you instantly have to turn around and make sure you hit it again.
I don't like playing third-person
Yeah.
games with a mouse and keyboard.
Also, there's a really cool, like, because you're ninja guys, you can wall run, you can hold jump to up a wall to run up a wall and then backflip off, and then use your sword to like stab down. You can, while you're sprinting, you can kneel and slide on your knees and then slash with your sword, and you spin around. It's pretty. And also the sword is really hard to use, which is good because it can one shot some people. Like it'll actually slice them apart. But
cool. That does sound like Metal Gear Rising.
yeah, sword's kind of hard to time because if you do the kneeling thing, you'll quickly spin and slash and go forward a tiny bit. But if you're running normally, sprinting and use the sword, you kind of do a very long lunge side swipe. Also, the AI has like stealth, like it detects stealth, so at any point you can be stealthy, and if they detect you, they'll turn on an alarm. So I think it's actually got stealth in it, because I'm pretty sure you can sneak up behind people and stab them. So you don't have to just run in using your assault rifle, you can stay crouched and kind of go around taking off one by one, and with 4 people that'd be amazing.
Some friends of mine, like, actually about 3 or 4 months ago, like, persuaded me to get Warframe. So I did, and then when I actually, like, by the time I actually like got it and shit, like, they'd all stopped playing it. So I was
You
like,
should totally play it. I would love that.
Yeah, so I'll reinstall it tonight and we can play it later.
Yeah, because I'm having so much. Like, I just did one
yeah,
mission.
After we're done talking about stupid video games, we'll go play.
It does feel
video
like a
games.
massive effort for it, but it does sound good. It really does.
It sounds too good to be true because it's free to play, but it's one of those games that, even though I've played, like, I might put some money into it if I really get into it, but like even then, it's got the same League of Legends style. You pay. Also, yeah, like the characters themselves are called Warframes, so you have different kinds of Warframes. Like I chose the one called Excalibur, who's mainly a sword guy, but you get like two choices. One of them's Loki. I forget the other one.
They're like loadouts.
Yeah, essentially, one's a stealth, one's a sword, and the other one's kind of like a support type thing, I think. And because you can spend platinum, which is the sort of free-to-play coin thing where you buy platinum to do it, and then you also get like credits, which you can also spend on items as well. So I'm not sure if everything can be bought with the sort of grindable currency or not, because some things can be bought with currency that you earn, and others are only have like the platinum symbol by it, or if there's a converter somewhere, because I know you can convert platinum into current.
Well, you can if you go on the Steam page, there's like you can buy a like starter pack and stuff as well.
Yeah.
For like up to like 60 quid or something. Or so. Yeah. So I guess they'll give you like some kind of boost to like kickstart you into the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But probably not worth it.
Yeah, I don't like boosting free to play games. I like starting normally. It's fine. But yeah, it sounds fun. I've only just started it, but it definitely looks like it has a lot of potential, especially for a co-op game, which I had no idea it was.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've also started playing League of Legends again.
After
I
the
like
Dota League of Legends fiasco.
Yeah, well, so basically what happened was, I last week found out that my university has an esports society, where they play League of Legends and stuff, so I decided to join that, and it got me interested in League of Legends again, especially since I'd said that I wasn't going to play until Season 4 started, and now Season 4 has started. Apparently, out of nowhere. I thought they wouldn't start till like mid-February, but they started like mid-January apparently. And Dave and Jack, who we were playing with Sanctum, or playing Sanctum with, rather, play a bit of Dota now and then, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna install Dota. Because I'd never played Dota, but I'd like always not really wanted to touch it because I've already invested so much time and money into League of Legends. So decided to give Dota a go and really, really didn't enjoy it. And it immediately made me want to go back to League of Legends. So I like patched that night and me and Dave played till like 3 a.m.
And we after that we had a sudden, honest appreciation for League of Legends all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like I really like Dota, but I just like this happened before.
I think there's just too much going on.
I haven't played it in a
Dota.
while, and it just kind of had that refreshing feeling again.
Yeah,
it was just refreshing to play. I think I got burnt out after doing all those ranked games. I kind of lost the will to play properly.
In LoL, you mean?
Unintended. And I just
Yeah, I think because like after we got you to Silver 2, like it was just kind of like, oh geez, not sure if I can.
Silver 1.
Was it Silver 1?
It was Silver 1.
Okay, Silver 1. I was like, oh geez, I'm not sure if I can. If I wanted to.
I don't give it. I don't
Yeah,
care. I don't know.
it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't really matter.
I bet there's some people in like Bronze 3 that are just like, I really want to be Silver 1. And this guy's like, yeah, man, it doesn't fucking matter. Dude.
Well, I was Bronze
No,
1, but that was because I did my promotionals at the start of Season 3, and then Dave had never played Ranked, like, in the sort of last month or so of Season 3. Like, I'd stopped playing Ranked, and Dave had never played Ranked, so I was like, fuck it, let's duo queue. And then we won 9 games in a row, and
Damn.
wound up in, like, Dave wound up in Silver 1, or no, Silver 4, and then we got him through promotionals, and he got to Silver 1, and I went up from Bronze 3 to Bronze 1, I think, but it just, like, really annoyed me, because I was like, damn, if I'd just been patient and not tried to do my provisionals at the start of Season 3, then I could have been a higher rank. But actually it doesn't fucking matter because it's a video game.
Yep, definitely. But something new that they've done in Season 4 that I really like is the fact that you get that refreshable ward.
Yeah, the trinkets.
Everyone gets it.
Everyone gets a ward.
So, because I play carry most of the time, if I'm with a random in bot and he's doing an awful job of warding, I can just ward myself, get on with what I'm doing, and just be like...
They don't last as long, but it's a free ward, like, every...
It's still,
seconds.
like, the amount of times I played top and I was, like, begging anything to ward it.
Yeah, it's like, I can't...
I could be like, there's nothing there.
I can't afford to go B right now. Jungler, can you please ward top for me? Jungler's like... I don't have a ward, and you're like, God damn it.
Fuck you, I'm... No.
Don't ask me these things!
Doing dragon. Call me later.
And it saves you a lot of gold as well,
yeah.
because wards were like 75 gold,
Well, they still are.
which is a ridiculous
But
amount.
they've
Also,
changed the way that wards
yeah,
work
but-
as well, which I really like.
We like, because we haven't been playing for a while, and we went in there, and a ton of icons are completely different, and we spent
Yeah.
the first few minutes of the game just
Yeah,
being like, what the fuck
we were
is
like, oh
this?
god, what? Everything looks different, and then like we were just about to start the game when we were like, wait a minute, the mastery's reset. Shit.
Oh, yeah, that's what I found out.
And like, I was playing support, and I just dumped everything into utility, and then just slammed my hands on the keyboard to name it. So now the page is just like full of
The one problem that I have now, actually, though, is that wards are like, since at the end of season 3, there was like 4 ward skins. There was the original wards, and then there was the 3 that they brought out towards the end with like Soraka, Lux, and Draven. And then at the end of season, at the end of season 3, there was then the Harrowing event, and that brought out like 3 or 4 new ward skins. And then there was the end of season 3 rewards. If you got silver or higher, then you get a ward skin. And I think there was some Christmas wards, and there's some Chinese New Year event wards, and I don't know what a fucking ward looks like anymore. Like, if I'm de-warding, I'm like, is that a ward or is that a part of the fucking scenery? I don't even know. Like, at least in season 3, like, there was consistency in what shit looked like. But I guess it's something I'll get used to the more I play. Just, it was like kind of worrying thinking about it, like, suddenly.
Yeah. Another new thing that they've done is how they revamped Sivir.
Yeah.
And I was playing a game with her.
There's been a few visual updates. They're all really nice, like Nasus.
Yeah. I completely forgot how to use the spell shield, so I was playing the entire game without using the spell shield at all, and I kicked ass. And I was
She's
like,
really
damn.
Strong.
Yeah, I played another game and used the spell shield, and I kicked even more ass. So I like what they've done with Sivir.
Yeah, it's really good. What's interesting though is that they haven't actually changed her that much. Like, they've just buffed her slightly. They haven't actually changed many of her original abilities from what they were.
But now she doesn't look like an N64 character, so it gives you
she doesn't have pizza feet.
incentive.
And she has nice artwork, except her skins don't have nice artwork.
Yeah. Jesus, you got
Oh yeah.
I had
into
a really
blade
hard
sword.
time with that bit.
Sorry, what?
I had a really hard time with this bit because a lot of these puzzles are about very precise physics. As in, you have to jump that split second before it cuts you off.
Yeah. This is probably one of the harder parts of the game. Alright. Anything else to say about LoL? Other than, like, hopefully we'll be playing it some more soon.
Bot games, all the bot games.
Yeah, I mean, we must be mostly playing bot games at the moment. Well, only playing bot games at the moment because, like, I've decided that I don't want to play ranked this season at all, and I think I kind of don't necessarily want to play against humans unless I know them or whatever, because people are fucking assholes. Like, the first game that we had going back to LoL was a bot game, and I was like, I'm gonna see if Jungle Kaylee still works. And the amount of rage that I got from these people in a bot game.
Oh, that was a funny game, though.
It just got ridiculous. I was just like, well, it's
the main
good to be back.
The main thing to do in those situations is to just have fun with just how crazy the game.
Yeah.
And if they do something stupid like, say, 2 people will jungle or go top or whatever, so there's no support in bot, just view it as a challenge. Because if you do half decently without that extra thing, it's just a lot more rewarding.
Fucking went out my balls.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm pretty much only playing League of Legends for fun at this point, and bot games are fun. Like, having to listen to people rage at you, like, isn't that fun?
That's why if you do play against randoms, play with at least one friend and play in Skype,
and
so you can just hear each other laugh at them.
Laugh at them.
That's essentially what we're doing. Like, they got to a point when they were so pissy, we were just stealing the blue and red buff from them just because we could, and the amount of rage they got, it's like, enjoy your report, you
it's just like,
scum.
gotta report these guys, you should uninstall, you fucking shit. We were just like, oh, jeez. This is dumb.
Well, they're like, I'm practicing my ranked, man. Come on.
I was playing as Heimerdinger, and someone said something, and I was just like, you are poorly designed. And they were just like, no, you were poorly designed.
Oh, apparently, Heimerdinger's been buffed
Yeah.
to hell. Like his turret's just.
He's had a complete
Heimerdinger in
different-
bot games is hilarious. Heimerdinger in real games is still kind of
Yeah.
He's still one of my favourites just because of the character and his laugh, and just running around, just going ha, ha.
It's LOL is really fun. I think like the only criticism I have is of like since we're playing a lot of bot games at the moment, like some harder fucking bots would be nice.
Make the bots cheat. All you have to do is just give them like 2,000 gold at the start, and there'll already be a challenge.
Yeah, like
and then there's a chance for them to snowball, and that's when the hard games happen.
Yeah, and
But
give
they
them
hardly ever
like
push, and when they do, they don't go past like the second tower unless you're all awful.
give them like slightly randomized item sets as well, so that they don't get predictable.
Yeah.
And make them cheat. Like give them like kind of like skulls in Halo. Give them like increased speed or increased health or whatever. Like do something that would like change them in like an interesting and fun way.
That's why I'd like, because bot games as well should be practice. They should be like challenge modes as well.
Yeah.
Which I'd really like. If they had that some kind of challenge mode. We've been talking about how we wanted the 1v1 and 2v2s to be changed as well.
I actually mentioned this to some guys at the uni esports society today, and they were like, "Oh man, that sounds like a really good idea." Because basically what me and Dave were talking about was like, because you may know if you follow League of Legends stuff that they released a 1v1 mode, but it was like really shit. Like the quality was terrible because it was it wasn't on Magma Chamber, which was the map that they teased originally. It was on Howling Abyss, which is much more linear than Magma Chamber, and it was like it had bad like optimization and coding and shit, and I think because of those reasons, not that many people wanted to play it. So queue times wound up being like 8 minutes, and because of the rules of that game type, it's basically first death, first tower kill, or first something else will mean that 100 creep will determine the victor of the game. So games are over really fucking fast.
Yeah, because of the first roll of first blood, the match can go anywhere the second you
like a
leave your
game
tower.
can potentially be over in the first 30 seconds if you fuck it up, right? So to queue for 8 minutes and then have to and then die and then have to queue for another 8 minutes is shit. So the Riot's like statistics on it are kind of skewed because they were saying, oh yeah, people's playtimes are nothing in comparison to Summoner's Rift, and I was just like, yeah, of course it's not. Like, of course it's shit in comparison, because you don't play for anywhere near as long. Like, you play for an hour usually in Summoner's Rift, or if it's a good game, or like half an hour if you're stomping them. And in Magma Chamber or in the 1v1 whatever, like, games don't last anywhere near as long as that. So what me and Dave proposed was they shouldn't like take you out of the game every time like a normal game of League. They should make it like an arcade mode in a fighter game where once you've picked a champion or randomed as a champion or whatever, you stay as that champion until you die. So basically you go into the game, you start fighting someone. If you win, then you stay in the game and wait for somebody else to join. And then you fight that.
But wouldn't the new champion be under level?
No. The game resets.
Reset, obviously.
But you stay in the game, you stay as that champion, and it just goes on for potentially like forever until you lose. And that would be really fun, as opposed to ending a game, going into the lobby, going back in. Like, basically, you don't leave the.
So it's kind of like when me and Dave used to play Soul Calibur 4 online. You get like a big game filled with like 5 people. You see the current match.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. It can queue people up while the game is already going on, and then they can spectate, and then it can just like cycle or whatever, and arcade mode basically, like in Street Fighter or whatever, which would be awesome.
There's no reason they took it out to not play custom.
Yeah, they should have left it in custom.
Despite the fact they said it's a balancing issue, it still would be so much fun to test out 1v1s anyway in a custom game. Because then you could essentially do your own tournaments of 1v1s.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So yeah.
Have you exhausted all your points? Can we start talking about Metal Gear Solid yet?
I don't know. Do you guys... Okay. Do you guys want to talk about EverQuest or Metal Gear Solid?
I don't know enough about EverQuest.
Alright.
To talk about.
We'll
if
give
you
EverQuest
want to,
some time at the end, if there is
any
time.
There probably won't be, because we're going to talk about MGS.
put it under the shirt.
So...
Let me just get.
Hey Will, what were we spending the last 20 hours last week doing?
If you've been paying close attention to this podcast, we've mentioned MGS a couple of times whilst talking about other topics, and that's mostly because once we finished recording 2 weeks ago, Dave found a stream on Twitch where these people were playing every single MGS game on the hardest difficulty, showing every single cutscene and as many Easter eggs as they could, twice.
Wait, hang on. When you say hardest difficulty, do you mean
European
Extreme?
Jesus Christ.
That's the hardest.
Fuck that.
Trying to get as few alerts and as few kills as possible.
Well, you can't anyway.
Yeah,
that's the whole point. You cannot.
Showing every single cutscene and every single codec and all the bonus footage and Easter eggs and everything. And
wow.
they were doing that twice over.
The second they finished Metal Gear Solid 4, I was like, whoa, that was long. And he goes, right, we're going to do Metal Gear Solid 3 again.
So we started watching around the 52-hour mark. So they were already...
Jeez.
They were already on the end of MGS 2 by the time we started watching, which was hilarious.
I hope there was a tag team.
We're gonna have to do a commentary on that at some point or something, because it was so fucking funny.
I don't think you can relive
just
shock
the amount of bullshit that happens at the end of MGS2 is insanely hilarious.
Bullshit, as in story-wise?
Yeah, just everything that happens.
I wouldn't call it bullshit, I'd call it convoluted.
Basically, until 2 weeks ago, I had never touched any MGS game because the sheer amount of lore and pre-contextual knowledge that you have to have about those games before playing them was really intimidating to me. So having it done by an expert, explaining stuff and going through step by step, showing every little thing, was really a really nice way to get me into it. Plus I was talking to Dave in TeamSpeak and making fun of stuff, but he was also there to explain stuff to me and Wikipedia stuff with me. So by the way, this stream lasted 130 something hours in the end. So me and Dave watched for about 75 hours straight. I had it started Wednesday and ended Saturday.
Did you leave it on when you went to bed or something?
It finished on Sunday morning at about 6 a.m. And I literally left the stream on my second monitor 24/7 throughout that entire period. And when I slept, I just turned the volume off. So I'd wake up, I'd go to sleep, wake up 6 hours later, and it would be fucking codec calls and shit like that. But it was really good because, like, I think if I'd watched it from the start, it would have been even better. Although it might have killed me, because I was pretty sleep deprived by the end. But like, because there were a few bits that I missed. Like, I managed to catch most of MGS1, most of MGS2, most of every game, apart from Peace Walker, which I saw the start and end of, but missed everything in the middle of.
Didn't really miss much then.
We even watched through, like, literally the entire of the PSP one.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just... Oh, God.
Thigh
boots.
I forgot what it's called now. Fuck.
Peace
no,
Walker.
not Peace Walker.
Not Peace Walker.
The one
Portable
before
Ops.
it, yeah.
Something Ops?
Those fucking boss fights.
Portable Ops, yeah. That was not great.
No, it's not as good.
I mean, the art style and the
Colonel's in it young with
are
anime.
quite nice, but the like everything else
Boss
is terrible.
fights are just horrendous.
But yeah, so I guess I'm kind of an MGS expert at this point. It's kind of hilarious, but I can't stop thinking about it. Like, me and Dave have both said this, like, since that stream, like, we kind of had MGS withdrawal symptoms. We were like, oh, we need more MGS.
Yes, I've been really craving the next MGS now.
Yeah.
I'm totally ready for it, even though Peace Walker is probably the most important game for the sequel, and I haven't actually watched all of it, but I'm trying my best to go through the archive version of it.
Yeah, I want to rewatch like all of Peace Walker again because, like I said, what happened was it was sort of like a fifth into the game or something, and the guy was doing codec calls. I should probably mention this. This was done by a stream on Twitch called United, and apparently this is something that they do quite frequently.
I've definitely done it before. I've seen,
they were saying at one point that they've done like a
Solid.
360-hour stream once, which is just kind of crazy.
You were talking about Peace Walker being really important before the new one. There's something that I am really interested to see, because in the original Metal Gear, and I think it was Metal Gear, where Big Boss is the person who's directing the operation, then at the end he turns evil, but it's Metal Gear. The story writing was really awful. The characters were literally, their personalities were completely two-dimensional. There was nothing to them. Now Big Boss is this fleshed out character. He's had a lot of kind of heroic and positive moments, and I want to see how they do this really superficial, like, NES game personality twist, and how they flesh it out and make it a real kind of character change.
That will be something really to look forward to, because I mean, especially because like Big Boss is one of my favorite characters. I think
definitely he's much better than Solid. Easily.
Solid really like draws out during Metal Gear Solid 4, and you're kind of like get a bit sick of it.
That final fight with Ocelot, though, that's pretty good. I mean,
what, you mean the Metal Gear Solid 4
like it drags on for 20 minutes. Like, I mean, sure, it's like repetitive as fuck, and it's like, oh, jeez. But at the same time, you're like, this is so fucking emotional.
Well, the thing I really didn't like about 4 was it loved to reference the old ones. Like,
that's why I was so put off of playing MGS, because I was like, oh, jeez, what do I do?
Well, I'm put off knowing what it's referencing, because it just pisses me off. They can't come up with anything kind of new and interesting for that moment, because it's a waste. Because there's a part where Raiden blocks like a ship or something. Really stupid and
like he gets crushed by a ship.
Yeah.
And then shows up later on.
And that is supposed to reference Grey Fox sacrificing himself in the first Metal Gear fight in Metal Gear Solid. Something which, you know, it's a very iconic moment, and they're just like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just make Raiden block a ship, same thing. That's what those moments felt like to me.
He didn't even sacrifice himself.
He comes back later with no arms and a sword in his mouth.
Yeah.
And he still fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think MGS4 is one of those ones where it's just like the vast majority of the game is like retroactively explaining some of the unexplained shit in the last 3 games.
Which it doesn't need to do.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to do.
Because you know when you read a book or you watch a TV show or something, you go into it with these expectations. And if it does cover something that you've predicted yourself, but it does it in a way that doesn't live up to your expectations, that kills it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's the main reason why I don't like Metal Gear Solid 4, because I had so many of my own thoughts and things that I wanted to happen, but it's just like, nah, it happens like this. It's not great, but this is how it happens.
That's similar to why I don't like Attack on Titan, but that's another video for another time. that's a video that I'm currently working on. I'm going through every episode, making like a few paragraphs worth of notes on every single one. That's a video that will hopefully come out in the next couple of weeks, and then we can talk about that. But Metal Gear, yeah, I mean, I have like a couple headcanon things, but I think the way that MGS4 explains stuff, like if like me, you like watch them all at the same time, or one after another, I didn't really have time to form like a headcanon on that sort of stuff. But I can see why it would be disappointing from your point of view, Brian.
Yeah, I only played through Metal Gear Solid 4 once, but it wasn't a particularly enjoyable experience. There were too many things that the characters did that they wouldn't have done if they had their personality from previous games. Like, there's a cutscene where Snake sees Vamp. He knows the Vamp can't die. But and he's hidden, he's stealthy, there's a massive group of enemies, so he just pulls out his gun and starts shooting Vamp in the head. Why the fuck would you do that?
Nano machines.
The nano machines. Yeah, it is kind of sad how they sort of retroactively explain Vamp as well with just nano machines. It's like...
every single question Will ask, like, why is he doing this? And I just go, nano machines.
Yeah, but the funny thing was that, like, after properly looking it up, like, 80% of the time, it actually turned out to be nano machines.
Yeah.
Well, there is something I did like that if you'd played Metal Gear Solid 2, you'd know about Vamp, obviously, when you fight him. Because I killed him, but without using the injection thing. And obviously he was going to get up and be like, well, you didn't kill me, I'm going to attack you again. But the second he stood up, I was standing right behind him. I grabbed him by the neck, slit his throat, he fell to the floor again. I waited for him to get up, I did it again, and then I injected him with the stuff, and I was like, yeah, fuck you. You ain't getting past me. That was a really fun part in the game. But it was the only one.
the only part. Yeah, MGS2 has its fucking problems. Like...
I was on about Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 2 is an amazing game. Right. You watch your steps, honey.
The ending of MGS2 at least, because
I really
a shit ton of stuff got cut, and it's so like non-cohesive.
The Arsenal just fucking appearing in New York.
So like if you don't know, if you're listening and you don't really know what happens at the end of MGS2, basically Snake and Raiden go into this room where a bunch of dudes show up and start attacking them. And then once you take out the dudes, a lady called Fortune shows up, and she's like, blah 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 blah, and like goes away with Snake. And then Raiden just shows up in this like VR room out of nowhere, and starts fighting 25 Rays in a row. Metal Gear Rays.
Yeah, it's because that's a part where he's kind of, at that point in the game, he's doubting his own identity and reality and everything. So something like that.
He's starting to go insane and shit.
That works with it.
But then Solidus... But then Solidus shows up and Solidus is like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," and then Helga shows up, or Olga, or whatever her name is, shows up, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die now. Take care of Sonny." And then you show up on top of the Metal Gear Arsenal, and Ocelot's like, "Aha, I'm liquid now. I'm gonna get in this ray and fuck everything up."
The Ocelot liquid thing was weak, but everything else is kind of justifiable.
And then it's like, Fortune, you can be... It turns out that you have nanomachines that mean you can't be hit.
No, it was an electromagnetic
or
device.
Something like that.
You bastard.
And then it's like, I have the electromagnetic device. You're a piece of worthless shit, Fortune. And then he gets in the ray and shoots Fortune, and then it's like, but Fortune had the power all along.
That's a very stupid way of putting how basically Ocelot's played them.
Yeah.
That's all it is. There's no kind of like, whoa, this is really stupid, wacky shit. It's just...
It's just hilarious how it was just like, I am Fortune, I have special powers, and then Ocelot's like, no you don't, and then Fortune does have powers.
Yeah, like Ocelot explains for 5 minutes how people...
Yeah, well, you watched them play through Metal Gear Solid 3, the boss characters in that.
I love Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah, that's wonderful, but like...
But
it's just a
the fact that the solo exists and all the other things.
The more annoying part of that is where it gets really inconsistent in terms of, basically, after that scene with Fortune, the ray falls off the side of Metal Gear Arsenal into the ocean. Snake dives after it off the edge of the arsenal, and then it goes black, and Solidus and Raiden wind up on top of the fucking building in New York, after the arsenal has crashed into the whole of Manhattan. And I know why they took it out. It's because the game came out in 2001, the same year as 9/11 and shit. But it's such a fucking horrible cut from the ray
it's something
and
that's
shit,
so kind of
then...
simple that you can easily, what's happened. You're just like, they're not in the ocean anymore.
Yeah.
They've now crashed into this location. There's a reason for that.
There's no crash. The only part that even suggests you're in New York is you go under a bridge.
Yeah,
and you're like,
it's because you're playing as Raiden. You're viewing it from Raiden's perspective, and judging from the past, 20, 30 minutes of the game, his head isn't right. So him passing out and waking up in that situation doesn't feel too absurd at all.
I guess it's just I think it stands out so much to me because this was the exact scene that I started watching the stream at, having known nothing about MGS. So me and Dave were just laughing our asses off at how ridiculous the scenario was. But then watching it a second time, 3 days later, in the same stream, I was like, this is still completely nonsensical. Even though I know so much more about MGS now, this scene still makes no sense.
So, you've got an opinion on Twin Snakes, don't you?
I don't have an opinion on it. I just want to know. I want to know what your opinion is, because as far as I was concerned, it was just a remake of the first game for the GameCube by the people that made Eternal Darkness, which sounds awesome.
Well, Eternal Darkness is a fantastic game, but Twin Snakes is absolute shit. And I'm going to list a good couple of reasons why. The soundtrack is completely different. It's now a mix of the theme tune remixed into these crazy, totally rad house D&B remixes, so it's like alert mode. The particle effects and blood effects have been doled down so much compared to Metal Gear Solid 2, because Metal Gear Solid 2 was an absolute bloodbath. You shoot someone in the head.
Twin Snakes is a remake of the first game.
I know, but I'm comparing the game engine is similar to Metal Gear Solid 2. Very similar. Grenade explosions look like little... The particles are nothing. The bodies don't bleed everywhere. They're just... and the extra things that you could do in Metal Gear Solid 2, it's trying to put those like extra gameplay elements into a game that isn't designed for them. Like the hiding of the bodies and things like that. And they also altered the cutscenes. It's all new voice acting as well, and it just generally doesn't sound as good. And in the cutscenes, there's a bit where Snake is fighting Grey Fox, and he does all these lame, like, whoa, I'm swinging my sword and it's deflecting bullets, and I'm going to do a backflip and all this extra crap that I don't do in the original because it's completely unnecessary. It's just... It's complete. Yeah, the whole thing is just completely unnecessary.
I don't know.
And the fact that after you fight Grey Fox, after a boss fight where you're supposed to be slightly wounded, you're supposed to have less rations, there is a Mario and Yoshi doll in the corner, because Nintendo instead of Sony, which is annoying. But you can shoot that and get all of your health back.
Yeah, I do know about that Easter egg. It is a little bit.
It's barely even an Easter egg. You see it in the cutscene as a centerpiece in one of the shots.
Yeah, I think like that is game breaking because that's in the hardest difficulty as well, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't like that, but like, I mean, graphically it looks better. Which I mean, you know, graphics.
I'd argue that it loses some of the charm.
Yeah, I mean, graphics aren't everything, obviously. Like there is a certain like charm, as you said, to the old MGS look.
With the non-moving face, non-moving mouths and the twitching
barely
heads.
anything to indicate that the characters even have eyes.
Yeah, they still have breath, which I quite like.
But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't, like, it's not a bad-looking game, and it, as far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't played it. I'd quite like to play it, or at least watch a full playthrough of it. The like game speed or whatever doesn't seem that much, or not speed. What am I talking about? The gameplay, aside from like the hiding bodies thing, doesn't seem that much more altered or anything.
I would strongly argue.
And I'd say
like I know you've watched the games, but if you went from playing Metal Gear Solid 1 to playing Metal Gear Solid 2, it feels so different.
But then, like, going from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 2 and then going back and playing Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, say.
You mean the third one?
No, not Snake Eater. It's Twin Snakes.
Twin Snakes, yeah, which is...
like, how does that compare or whatever? Like, if it's similar to MGS2 and MGS2 plays well, like...
It just feels like an emptier MGS2. Because you have all the unnecessary extra mechanics to it.
Fair enough. I'd have to take a closer look to properly form an opinion there, I guess.
By the way, Brian, what was like the secret way that you used to kill the fear? Didn't you have like...
with the fear, what I love about Metal Gear Solid 3 is like the variety of ways you can kill half of the bosses. With the fear, I know if you had some rotten food, you could throw it on the ground. His stamina recovers really quickly, so he'll eat it, he'll get poisoned, and that kind of gives you a little window to shoot him whilst he's puking. But if you want his camo, you can poison him and then just beat the crap out of him with either your fists or a tranquilizer. And you get his camo that way.
If you in the cutscene he shoots you with the dart.
Yeah, the poison crossbow bolt. Yeah.
What kind of poison is it, Brian?
That bolt is coated in the venom of the Brazilian wandering spider. Something, your lungs stop moving, your heart cease to something. I used to know it off by heart because I played it so much.
Well,
I fucking
anyway,
love that boss fight.
The guy who was running it, immediately after the cutscene, he takes a suicide pill.
Yeah.
if you stay dead for long enough, Fear will jump down, turn around, and start laughing.
Yeah.
He then took the antidote, got back up, I think grabbed him once from the back, and then shot him from behind and killed him.
That's another thing that I love, because
do that.
all of the bosses, if you take a fake death pill, they all have their own unique dialogue about it, because they'd be like, "Ah, he's dead already." Things like that.
That if there's like anything that I really admire about, well, there's a lot of things that I admire about the MGS games now, but like especially the fucking voice acting. It's so good.
With that much talking, you do need.
I think that's why. That's why I really want to have another look at Peace Walker, because that whole game is voice acted, and it's such an important game in terms of the story and plot and shit.
Yeah, I think they got Tara Strong to voice Paz.
Yeah.
I don't like Tara Strong.
I don't mind her.
And I don't like Paz.
I like that.
Paz is ridiculously important, though.
Unfortunately.
She's going to be very important for the next one.
Yeah, I remember, like, I went to sleep watching Peace Walker, and they were doing, like, codec calls, and it was, like, sort of a fifth of the way into the game or something. Going through codec calls and, like, voice logs and stuff. And then I fell asleep watching that, and then woke up like 6 hours later, and they were still doing, or they'd progressed in the game, but then they were doing more codec calls and voice logs and stuff. And I woke up to like Paz talking about like Dr. Strangelove like rubbing suntan lotion on her body, and I was like, what? and how it like turned this 12-year-old girl on a little bit, and I was like, and then he like finished that shit, and it was like the like, and then it went straight into the final fight with Paz in the Metal Gear, and I was like, what? What? Oh, because like I sort of didn't realize that I'd fallen asleep, because as far as I was concerned, I just sort of closed my eyes for a couple minutes. So I was like, oh man, this game's really short. Wait a minute. Oh, 6 hours have passed. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I've just realised how much I could say about the bloody gameplay in it. We have no time left.
Like 2.5 minutes.
This would take an entire other podcast.
Special Metal Gear podcast. Just add a picture of a big boss at the end. I've got the perfect picture.
Yeah, sure, why not? We'll talk for a few more minutes, and at the end of this, and just put like, I'll put like pictures, teaser pictures from Ground Zeroes on or something.
Just play the trailer of Ground Zeroes.
Okay, well, the attention to detail with the gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 is absolutely amazing, because if you remember, in Metal Gear Solid 2 you have the rooms filled with guards, and generally one of them has a radio. In some of those rooms they'll go for radio checks, like, reporting in. So if you take that radio guy out, there will constantly always be alerts. Unless you've killed him and they find him, then they'll replace him. So what you can do is you can find the radio guy, you can take him into a cupboard, you can torture him.
End of Limbo here. You find your sister, and then it's credits.
What a cracker shit.
That's the story of the game in Limbo.
There's a guy called Dino. Thanks, Dino.
Disclaimer: Limbo is actually pretty good.
It's fucking awesome. Go play it. It's like £2.
But yeah, you have the radio system with the guards, and what I love to do with them is I love to torture the crap out of them. They have location damage, like you shoot them in the left hand, they'll be less accurate. You shoot them in the right hand, they'll have to drop their assault rifle, take out a pistol. They can limp, and you can shoot them with a tranquilizer in the leg. It'll take ages to knock them out, or you can shoot them in the head. It'll knock them out instantly. Yeah. And in Metal Gear Solid 3, if you made someone limp, knocked them out, and they woke up, they would sit down and they would bandage their leg up, and then they would walk away and get replaced with a fresh one. Don't know why.
Excuse
they
me. Yeah,
did it
yeah.
after it's bandaged up, but
yeah, MGS3's like really fucking good.
what I used to love doing is if you snuck up behind someone and had C4 and pressed the thing, you'd actually put it on their waist.
Huh.
So a guard would be walking around with C4. So what I'd do after that is I'd knock him out, drag him to a location, and make sure it's an obvious one, or just throw a grenade there so people are like, oh, what was that noise? And then they just all walk over to this guy and they're like, oh, you okay? Oh, no. I didn't actually knock them out. What I did is, because there's so many damn things you can do in Metal Gear Solid 3, is if you get them in a CQC hold, then you throw them to the ground and point your gun, they'll surrender, but they'll surrender on the floor. So they literally won't do anything until someone else goes, hey, what are you doing that for? And they're like, oh, there was a guy here, he's gone now. So I'd do that, and then he'd get up, and they'd be like, oh, everything's fine, and then I'd just be like, beep. I love torturing people in that. You can like poison with snakes, you can set fire to them with a torch. Yeah. It's a beautiful game.
So what were you going to say about Peace Walker then?
What was I going to say about
Peace Walker?
Peace
You
Walker?
had something to say in comparison of gameplay or something to Peace Walker and MGS2.
Not really, no. But speaking about gameplay in Peace Walker, because it was a PSP game, and I played the HD collection.
Yeah, that's one they were playing on the stream.
Yeah, it feels like a very, very empty game. It could do with
on the PSP,
bigger levels, more enemies. Well,
both.
On console, in contrast, because as it was made for the PSP, it is very limited in terms of resources, memory, etc., which is why there's only a few characters and the levels are all broken up into these tiny sections.
I think that's why like the vast majority of the game is codecs and like audio logs and stuff.
Yeah.
I think actually thinking about it, like thinking back to the stream, like I didn't actually see that much gameplay of Peace Walker. I think I was in a very sleepy state at that point, but I don't actually remember that much gameplay wise, aside from the final boss fight.
Yeah, despite like gameplay, the more important stuff is the characters it introduces.
Yeah, because it sets Peace Walker sets everything up in preparation for Ground Zeroes and the other one.
It sets up everything for first two. It kind of sets up stuff for Metal Gear Solid because it introduces Hal's father or grandfather.
Something.
I think it's called. Yeah. Basically, he's in a wheelchair, and then in Phantom Pain he gets like mechanical legs.
Oh wait, that guy.
Which is like the start of the exoskeleton stuff.
Oh man, I didn't make that connection. Like I said, I watched Peace Walker in a very like sleepish state. That makes sense because I was thinking he kind of looks like Hal.
Yeah. You can see his in Metal Gear Solid 3, he's got like his grandfather or something in his room. You can see a picture of him, his grandfather with his dad, I think, on a picture on the wall somewhere.
In MGS3?
Yeah.
What? But...
Well, I think...
No, the father of Hal's father.
Oh,
so Hal's grandfather.
Grandfather or great-grandfather?
Grandfather, I'd say.
Yeah, personally, I don't think we should make it go on too long. We don't want to make it like a 3-hour thing, so no one's going to listen. So what I think I'd do is I'll just reel off some awesome little Easter eggs about Metal Gear Solid. Mostly Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh, cool.
Because
we've talked about 1 and 2 a lot, but not that much about 3.
Yeah, in Metal Gear Solid 3, you go into this guy called Granin's office, and he's busy designing like I think the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear Ray. He has the models in his room and the design plans of it, but Sokolov's plans were overtaken by Volgin and everything, so they initially ignored the Metal Gear that they made in Metal Gear Solid 1 for the Shagohod, which I think is quite cool.
Wait, because Hal said that he didn't design the Rex from the ground up, like he used pre-existing designs.
He used the designs that the Americans recovered after that incident, which is pretty cool. Another fun little Easter egg: when you're fighting Volgin and you put on the Rykov mask, he actually, I think he says, Rykov, is that you? And he gets into a bumming position.
One thing that I didn't understand is why Rykov looks like fucking Raiden in that.
I think that's just a fan
explaining to
thing.
him that he simply wasn't Raiden, he was just there.
Yeah.
Raiden.
But like when I first saw it, like when I first saw him, and they were like Rykov, I was like, that sounds like Raiden. He looks like Raiden. Is this like is this Raiden in disguise? Is this Raiden's like code name? Is this Raiden's dad or something? Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Another little Easter egg with him is after you knock him out and you come back to the same locker and you take him out, he has underwear that has a little lightning bolt on it. To reference Raiden. Another thing is there's like a massive health system, and there's a part where you can heal Eva, and you can go into her medical history.
Yeah, he showed that off in the stream.
And one last thing that was pretty cool is, in one of my playthroughs, I got a shotgun buck to the arse, and I didn't pluck it out with a knife. So hours later through the game, after that wound had healed, I was stuck permanently with shotgun shells in my arse. Which I think is brilliant.
I think my favourite part, like my favourite Easter egg part of that game is right at the end. Well, I don't think even know if it's an Easter egg, but like right at the end, where it's just like they redub the cutscenes and shit, and like mess around with like all the characters and stuff, and you get like it's almost like pre-YouTube poop. It's like amazing. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Are you on about the kind of special jokey cutscenes?
Yeah.
Where
The outtake.
there's Big Boss like lands in like a new mission or whatever, and then the like weapons defense guy or something from the president's office in the final cutscene, who like he didn't shake his hands with, like shows up as well.
Who is actually the DARPA chief?
the DARPA chief. Like, and he's like, no, that's not him.
That's the head of
Sigan.
CIA, the guy, you snub.
Whoever he is, and he like drops in as well, and Big Boss is like, who are you? And then he like punches the shit out of him, and then just like holds his hand out, like, and then they shake hands.
And then all the photographers come back.
They shake hands, and like the photographers come back, and then they like start dancing in a field and like make out and like skip into the sunset, and it's just like
oh yeah, that one's brilliant.
Like, and the other one where he like catches that guy like jacking off to porn, and then they both start jacking off. It's just like more games should have that sort of shit at the end, where the voice actors and the like animators just get to have a bit of fun. Like, so many more games.
Who did you say that guy was?
The streamer.
The weapons expert.
The guy who he doesn't shake hands with.
That's the head of the CIA.
Oh yeah, but the weapons expert is the guy that turns into the DARPA chief. Sigan.
Yeah. Metal Gear.
And another fun fact, the guy you rescue in Metal Gear, Petrovich, is the same guy that turns Raiden into a cyborg.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There you go.
Alright, I think we should bring this to a close.
It's enough milk, you freaking salmon.
Well, I'll talk about Ground Zeroes in the next one. That'll be
we could probably still talk about this for a while.
No, we couldn't.
No, I mean like...
Stop it, Will. We've got to stop the podcast.
There is more to talk about.
I need to go home, Will.
Like, but we won't talk about it because it would take too long. So,
and with that note,
thanks for watching and listening.
Whoever you are.
Goodbye.
You killed Sniper Wolf!